am coming to you today from the banks of the mighty Olentangy River here at the campus of Ohio State University, and I'm really excited to see you all. So thanks for being here. Let's go ahead and get going so we can get down to business and having a little fun, productive fun with each other here. So first of all, I gave you my greetings. If you wouldn't mind throwing your name and region or organization in the chat so we know who is here today, feel free to say hello to each other. Hopefully on Zoom, we've become familiar enough to be able to use this chat function to identify each other if we want to send a private message or something. So make sure you say hello to an old friend, maybe say hello to a new friend, and just be sure to be checking in with each other today. So thank you all for being up and at 'em and getting in the chat first thing this morning. Moving us right along and keeping us in the chat here, we are, for most organizations, getting towards the first 9 weeks, if not eclipsing the first 9 weeks of the school year. So a quarter down almost for most of us. And I am wondering if today we can center ourselves and just to give each other a sense of maybe where we're at today, how we might want to be interacting with each other, aware of how each other are feeling. If we could use a little stoplight check-in here. And for those that are unfamiliar, the stoplight check-in is red, yellow, green, just like an automotive stoplight thing. And green means I'm feeling really good, like let's get after it today. Yellow's saying, feeling good, getting going, but don't mind me if I say something a little wild at some point. And then the red light, of course, being handle with care. A lot of stuff going on. So if you all wouldn't mind taking just a couple more seconds to get in that chat and giving us a sense of where you are today, red, yellow, or green. Thank you. Oh, thank you. We're seeing a lot of greens. That's great. I appreciate those of you who are being open and honest about where we're at. Got some red and yellow in there too. Thank you all for contributing, kind of how you're feeling. And I know that this is a little fun, a little goofy in some ways, but I do want you to take seriously if you do see someone in there that maybe had a red light to think about that handling with care type of attitude as we come here to support all of our colleagues. So thanks for sharing, and I'm glad to see there's so many greens, and hope to keep that up today. So we don't got to read this whole thing, but I just want to remind us as we come together every time kind of what we're doing here. We are here to really collaboratively research, develop, and support the implementation of tools and strategies for regional teams and school districts to effectively engage and empower families and communities. We do this with special attention to students with disabilities and their families. So I'm really looking forward to continuing to work towards this mission today with you all. And I actually think we have some great conversations lined up that will meet this end very nicely. Brings us to a little reminder about our website as we get started, especially because I know we do have some newer people with us. Always remember that if you head over to our website, and I would like to just refresh this real quick, because I think this will come. Well, anyways, if you go to our website on the right side here, you might see a little thing pop up about our State Advisory Council. Please be sure to be sharing that in your networks with families that you think might be good representatives on our council. So if that pops up, take heed of that. But remember, networks are at the top bar. We're the Family and Community Engagement Network. Yeah, click on here, and here's all of our stuff for today. So here you'll find agenda, slides, some note catchers and stuff we'll talk about later. So if you ever miss a link in the chat or QR codes not working for you, you always come to this website, and this is where all of the stuff. So just to center us around some objectives and then the agenda here before we get chatting with each other, we're going to analyze and create some coaching prompts together and really coaching philosophy really as well as I thought about this. We'll probably be having some conversation around what coaching tools could be most useful, what we're using, things like that. So I'm really excited about that conversation. We'll be discussing kind of our reporting practices as it relates to family engagement and brainstorming kind of around that as we think about how we're delivering services and capturing that for our organizations. We're going to contribute to some work groups today, and I'm excited about that. I'll show you which work groups are going to be up today in just a second. I think we've got 3 really good ones that will drive some great conversation for y'all. And we're also going to hear from some network partners. So I'm really excited about that. So as you see at the agenda, it kind of follows those objectives. We got some conversations coming up with some SST consultants who have been thinking about coaching in their work and going to share some things that they've been thinking about and maybe where our thinking can head next there. I mentioned about those partner updates. Those are always fantastic. And the work groups, we're really excited this time. We're going to be talking about family engagement award system, and not just a family engagement award system, but a system of model schools for family engagement. And we'll talk a little bit about more of that when we get to the time. We also are going to have a group set aside who want to talk about community schools and dropout recovery and prevention schools. We've heard from state support team colleagues in the past that that kind of takes a unique approach from some of our normal district work, specifically when we start thinking about dropout recovery and the unique nature of those programs. How are we supporting them the best that we can? How are we supporting them to best support families of students with disabilities and beyond? So looking forward to that conversation. And our center also has a statewide survey that we do fairly regularly. And we're going to be looking at doing a statewide district family engagement kind of needs assessment survey in 2024. And we're looking to your expertise to develop some prompts and maybe concepts that we can make into survey items for that survey. If you guys remember, have been here for a couple years, we actually do produce result reports kind of by region that you can use to kind of think about your work in family engagement and things of that nature as well. And then of course, all that data is available to school, to you all, and then to us as we think about all of this there. So really excited about these conversations. So that'll be in maybe an hour and a half from now or so. So maybe during this time, be thinking about which conversation you'd be most excited to hop into.
Hey, Tom, just one little, since I think the district leaders survey next, probably February, will affect all the SSTs. They may be wondering like which districts will be surveying. Because this is the final year of our first 5-year federal grant, we're going to stick with the same list of 323 districts from the last few administrations of the survey, just so we can kind of get good comparison data. And then probably the next round after that, we would kind of shift to whatever ODE's new list of intensive moderate support status districts are. We haven't fully figured that out, but just know that for those of you who have helped with getting those surveys in the past, we'll be doing it again, and probably a similar set of districts. Sorry, Tom, I interrupted your flow.
Nope, absolutely. Really good to have that background information and some clarity as there are new lists for improvement statuses and things going on this year. So that's great clarification. And we're hoping to get some of your expertise on those items. So thank you. But you've already heard enough of me talking today. We want to make sure that this is a space where you all can get together and have some great conversations about the work that you all are doing. I made reference to this at the beginning of the meeting. we are approaching that first quarter, 9 weeks, however you think of it, kind of benchmark for a lot of school districts out in the world. Well, at least out in Ohio, I suppose. And this is a kind of a benchmark time for a lot of us in education. How are we feeling about how things are going? Are the plans that we created this August, this summer, kind of going in the direction that we thought they would be? Have new things emerged? And that's a conversation I'd love for you all to start with each other today. So I'm wondering, as you reflect on maybe the start to the school year to now, what's standing out to you? Doesn't all have to be barriers. There's a lot of new opportunities that you didn't think or that you didn't foresee in the start of the school year. So uh, what though is standing out to you? Have any unique school needs emerged? Have new family concerns emerged? Has your organization or organizations, school organizations as you see them, developed new priorities? So I want you to talk about that with each other. We're going to be in about groups of 4, so please try to make sure that everyone has a space to speak. That should be maybe around 2 minutes per person in this type of opportunity. And I'd love for you to not just mention what's standing out in these first 9 weeks, but maybe where we have to head next, knowing what we know now. So if there's no questions about kind of this type of little icebreaker, then we're just going to get into these rooms and see what's going on. I'll pause just momentarily to see if anyone's got any questions about this activity. Okie dokie. Well, I'm not seeing anyone come off mute or any hands or anything. You guys were so awesome and eager to jump into the chat. So I hope that this will be a fun conversation with whoever you end up with. And I'll see you back here in about 10 minutes. So thanks, guys. And here everyone comes. Thank you so much for jumping into those groups and getting that conversation going today. I think it is in the nature of our work that as much as we plan and as much as we read and practice and focus, that things emerge that we never could have expected. And that's part of our job too, being able to pivot and address those things. I'm wondering, was anyone kind of excited by or maybe given a little anxiety by things that people brought to share in their groups? Is there anything that was standing out, either that you are really passionate about and want to share, or you heard something in your group that you think is worth passing on as a consideration?
In our group, we talked about family engagement and attendance, and I thought there were some really interesting, good ideas shared. Everything from like looking at the whole system with the MTSS framework to see what supports are in place and where there might be gaps, and then kind of shifting away from truancy officers and those more punitive ways of thinking about attendance, more to building people's motivation to come to school, focusing on the potential of students, having family ambassadors reaching out and assisting families. So I thought there were a lot of good ideas shared, just to get away from this idea that we're trying to punish families, because I think at some point the fear tactics, it sounds like what I'm hearing is like they just don't work. Families are like, go ahead. Susan and others were sharing that like when it gets to that point, then like a new tactic needs to be deployed, because if we're just giving up, then that's probably a surefire. It's like with kids, like all the um, nitpicking their behavior and punishments, like at some point they're just going to check out. So you have to kind of shift to more of that positive approach.
So
Appreciate
in
you.
our, oh, sorry.
Go for it. No, go.
In our group, we were talking about the same thing, basically the attendance and that. But we discovered that some districts were also having a problem with the adult attendance, and the staff attendance has been very low. So we were thinking about what are ways that we could incentivize the staff as well, because of course that affects student learning and student attendance. And then Jessica told us that she was driving through the tech space and was given a safety ticket that she has with her. And then you can rip off the end of it, and they give it to the kiddos who are like driving the safe limit, or they have their seatbelt on. She got it for wearing her seatbelt. But we were thinking like that's a really cool way if we could manipulate that into some type of staff incentive, because then they could throw the ticket in and win whatever it is that they win.
This is very interesting, and I appreciate that we're not just kind of settling around, oh, there's a big topic, it's coming up a lot, but thinking about ways to kind of uh, make progress in this area. So I really appreciate you all bringing that up. And I think chronic absenteeism is something that is not going to stop being talked about in the short term, and not just because of numbers. It has now become part of policy discussions, practice discussions, continuous improvement, any area of school life that you all work in has somehow come into contact with conversation around chronic absenteeism. So I just want to encourage you to kind of stay up on that. And one thing it makes me think about a lot, right? I just mentioned all the different arenas and domains that absenteeism and attendance are being talked about and approached right now. This is maybe an opportunity to really focus on your sphere of influence, what you can influence about chronic absenteeism practice and policy when you're coaching, helping the district, either whether it's an internal facilitator or another person you're working with, understand kind of the landscape of that for themselves. This is going to be something that is it's here to stay for at least a little while. And for good reason too. Of course, we want kids in schools. I also appreciate the bringing up the adults. That's something that we see far too often, is kind of this parallel line of student attendance and adult attendance in certain buildings. So wondering if maybe we'll have time for just one more person to open up if they would like to share. Well, that is a-okay too if people are chatted out for the time being, because we'll need that energy to do some chatting a little bit later as well. I do find it quite interesting that chronic absenteeism seemed to be a conversation in every group that chose to speak up. Yeah, I think that's worth thinking about and worth kind of, obviously attendance is really important. We want everyone to be at school. We know the threats to student outcomes if you're not in school, kind of what those leading indicators mean. But I think thinking really seriously through kind of how we're supporting this, how we're thinking about this, how we're helping school districts to think about this will require maybe of view or putting pieces together beyond simply absenteeism and attendance data. And I know that all of your organizations are well suited to help people in all concerns about climate and academic improvements and all those things. But yeah, not going away. So also our center has been working on it a lot too. So we'd be happy to continue having any of those conversations with you if interesting things. Thanks for sharing. So I wanted to just give a couple updates before I turn it over to some SST colleagues here to lead the next part of our conversation. But I mentioned this briefly last time, but now it's live for everyone to use. Is our Voices from the Field. And if you're new, our Voices from the Field is kind of a annual report that we put together each, well, it's annual each year. We put it together, and what it does is it tries to highlight your work in as part of this network, um, in a way that's useful for you guys to go back to, as well as anyone else who might come across this, considering like school leaders, things like that. If you don't remember, last year we kind of did a deep dive on these two documents. One is a research brief that brings out some best practices around supporting families of students with disabilities. This, of course, is the Family Engagement Core Competencies, a new kind of guide for measuring our practice as we try to improve. If y'all don't remember, we put together some coaching prompts around these areas. So what we did here is just give a brief overview of what this is about and then highlight the coaching prompts kind of for each domain or practice in this book. So feel free to share those with people if they're coming up, or come back to them as you need to. We also got coaching prompts here for the family facing professional competencies here. They're a little less organized. We didn't do it step by step in the same way we did with the special education brief, but these are still super useful and just great question stems to have in your back pocket when you're in conversation. So I just encourage you all to check that out. Drop that in the chat. Another thing I wanted to make you aware of is people in Cleveland maybe are aware of this, hopefully, but IEL is having a learning lab, and like Monday and Tuesday of next week came together really fast, but we helped them with it a little bit. So I did just want to make you aware that this will be bringing people from kind of all over, but hopefully some people from Ohio to take a look at Greater Cleveland's school districts in Greater Cleveland's commitment to family engagement and kind of what it looks like at a district level. We know so many of you all in SST3 and beyond work with these districts and help them conceptualize kind of where they're headed with their practice. So wondering if anyone's registered for this or has heard people that are going to it. We'll be giving a set of presentations during it, but otherwise have just been helping them kind of try to draw it together. They'll be highlighting Shaker Heights, Cleveland Heights, University Heights, and Cleveland via school tours and stuff too. So interesting type of thing there to check out. And it's kind of cool that we're being highlighted. I've been to one of these events in Philadelphia. I know that they had another one in a city that wasn't Philadelphia right before that. I apologize, I forget, but to be kind of being highlighted on that national stage is kind of interesting and cool. So be aware of that. Okay, so now is the moment you've all been waiting for, where I kind of get out of the limelight here. And what we want to turn to is some of our consultants here to give us a rundown on some work they've been doing around preparing for coaching districts. I'm going to let them give you most of the background. I'm inviting Kim and Missy, our colleagues here, but kind of a conversation, how this conversation got started is just knowing that consultants over time kind of develop these Google Docs and documents, right? We're working together, we're brainstorming stuff, but not wanting to let that just go away because we moved on to a next year and maybe haven't shared it as widely. People are always doing great work trying to advance their coaching practice and have those great little kind of tools in their back pocket that can advance those conversations. So what I'm going to do here is just invite Missy and Kim to come up and give us a lowdown of what they're doing. And Missy and Kim, what I'm going to go ahead and do is invite you to just yell out, Tom, do this, whatever you need. You need links dropped, you need slides changed. I am here to serve you at this point. So just call it out in the chat. But how are you guys doing this morning?
Good, Tom. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I am very good. I'm glad to see you.
Can we screen share as well?
Wow. Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
I'm gonna make you both co-hosts.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys have had your visit from ODE yet, but it was just an opportunity, you know, for the higher ups. I don't even know what their roles are right now, to come in and visit at the SSTs, just to kind of give us an idea of what the expectations are. And I'm always thinking about how we can represent family engagement and making sure that the work that we're doing gets documented. So this kind of started in a work group that we were in last year. And I know a few of you were a part of that. So if I misspeak or I missed something, please share that out. So we're thinking about how, if we're looking at the grant agreement, that we can make sure that we're being able to document and keep track of that we're actually working with families, if that makes sense. So it looks like I need to stop sharing yours. Hopefully this is the right one. Okay, can you guys see this? Okay, so for our good old grant agreement, if you did a control F, I think family shows up 28 times and families shows up 15 times or something like that. But our main work is within section 11, the scope of work. And then it's grant agreement 17. And I'm not sure. I'm going to scroll real quick through here. So close your eyes if that makes you sick. So I want to make sure that when we're putting in track as an SST consultant, that we're able to document, because when we're in track, we're probably going to choose the area that we're supporting those districts in. We're probably not going to choose grant activity number 17. We're probably going to choose SEP. We're probably going to choose SPDIG or PBIS. So I don't know what you guys were thinking as a way to make sure that we could document this. So here's grant activity 17, which is where it's focused on families, but all throughout, like I mentioned, there are other instances where family or families are represented in those required strategies. And if you look at our very first required strategy that we are supposed to be accomplishing, is to work with other SST consultants to integrate family engagement into other SST grant activities like PBIS, OAP, literacy, early childhood. So I know we're doing the work, but I just want to make sure that it's showing up, that we're doing the work, and we're honoring all the work that you guys are doing out there. So last year, in the work group that we were in, we were looking at different ways to support. If we're the consultants, the family consultants that are coming to these meetings, and we're getting the information from our partners like Ocali and all the Ocali centers, from DD, from early childhood, we're getting all that information, then how can we make sure that we share it with other SST consultants? So this is something at SST 6 that we have done as we're trying to come up. So I'm just giving you guys an idea. And if you don't like this, you don't have to use this at all. And I think some of you have seen this before as well. But these are possible SST services. So we had done this as our whole staff. We listed all of these different focus areas that we have. So if a district is going to be focusing on ed steps and they need to do their one needs assessment, they're doing a root or a data analysis and a root cause analysis, here are some resources that any SST consultant in our office could go and grab those resources, and they could use those. So we're trying to brainstorm, each one of us in the office for doing that. So this could be an idea that we could work on. We could share resources with each other, so then we could just share it across the state, across all of us consultants that are here. just so we have common resources that we're using. So another focus area we had was literacy. So we know that we need to support some districts with the reading TFI, the RTFI. So what are resources that go along with that? So we're not trying to all go to all these multiple different resources and trying to dig these all up on our own. We had one document that we could all consult or refer to get those support. So the way that we had this originally set up was that I'm going to scroll back up to the top of the document. And Tom, I think I shared this with you. So if you want to put that in chat, thank you. One of the areas was actually family and community engagement. It was a separate area, but really, if you're looking in the grant agreement, family engagement is within all of those areas. And we know this, we know that. So one of the changes moving forward was I was thinking to actually just create a family section in each one of these areas and then list resources that can be used for family engagement within that focus area. Now, these focus areas, this was a couple years ago we created this, so this is not a direct alignment to our current grant agreement, but I think that would be something that would be easy enough to change. And also when I created this family engagement resources, at that time, Tom, you guys were doing you were sending a survey out to districts who were moderate, CDF and intensive. I don't think last year or that you guys did that, but if you remember that survey, that's how I tried to organize that information. So I would want to reorganize this too. And again, I'm just trying to give you some ideas of how we're trying to find resources to help to support family engagement across the board and help us meet that grant agreement 17 and supporting districts with family engagement. So if this does not make sense, I'm not offended. Any advice or any feedback would be great as well. So again, this is based on the survey and I would want to rearrange this, but if we're just talking family engagement basics, these are some things that I knew that we had worked on as a network. And these are some oldies and goodies, like the 4 versions, like this Prezi. Do you guys remember this? This Prezi version of the 4 versions of a family school partnership? That's good stuff, but I feel like we haven't talked about it for a couple years. So I tried to align it to that survey that came out and where those big areas of needs are. And I think, Tom, this should have been another area, another link that I sent to you. So Melissa, any comments? I think you had one that you were creating as well.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I don't think I was part of that work group, but somehow maybe we got put into a group together, a breakout room or something, and we got to talking about it, and we both were kind of thinking the same things, which is I actually had sent Kim a message earlier in this meeting, like it's amazing how, you know, we work in completely different regions, but our mind was going in the same exact direction, because you know, I had to restart my document at the end of the year last year. I decided to try to tackle the task of building capacity of my team, because as you know, as a family engagement consultant, we have multiple roles, and it's very hard for us to be the sole person pushing that work, and it can often become siloed if other people are not knowledgeable of some of those resources and can take ownership of this work. So I met with Barb and Meredith a couple of times just to kind of wrap my brain around where I wanted to go with it. But I started taking some of those documents that we have. So the PBIS family engagement rubric, the Partnerships for Literacy resource, literacy inventory, and some of the activities within that project. The early literacy family engagement rubric. There was also another document. So I took about 5 documents that I felt kind of worked in each area, the MTSS and family engagement framework. And I had each one of the groups kind of explore that document, and they had prompts of, what are some key highlights, How would you use this document, or where are places that you feel this could be easily integrated? And then what are a few coaching questions that you can think of off the top of the dome to just figure, to put out so we can kind of get going. And I did that because it's very, I could very well do that on my own, but having everybody come together kind of created that group ownership of this work. So I started kind of doing that, and each of these documents in my mind was going to go within those grants agreement activities and strategies. So very much similar to what Kim was doing. Unfortunately, I had to recreate my document. I still have my posters of the work that we did as a team because I like to keep everything. But I got a new computer and I can't remember what I titled it. And I've been going through a bunch of files. So I might eventually find it, but I have since recreated this document, and it was a breath of fresh air to see what Kim had done because it was very similar and what I was thinking. So really drilling into, okay, activities 1 and 2 are OIP related. How do we provide specific resources? Because when we are working with building teams, a lot of the times that naturally comes up in the conversation. For example, I've been working a lot with some buildings on analyzing their report card data. And when we talk about gap closing, we talk about chronic absenteeism. And a lot of time that conversation leads into talking about families and reframing some of those conversations with those teams just by simple questions can get them thinking a little bit differently about families and circumstances of what might be causing chronic absenteeism and what barriers might be in the way, and how we as a team can work and partner with families to remove those barriers instead of approaching it from that deficit mindset of, it's the family's fault and it's something that we can't control. We may not be able to control it solely, but there are a lot of ways that we can influence. So kind of capturing some of those questions to be able to use naturally in those teaming structures that we are supporting. And there's plenty of examples. I mean, when we're talking about literacy and the dyslexia legislation and trying to get ahead with how we communicate with families and really give them the knowledge of what's going on and what practices we have within our schools. So that way, when we send out a letter saying that their child is at risk for dyslexia, it's not a sense of panic. They understand, what that could mean and what this district is already doing to address those pieces. So yeah, I would love to continue doing this, and I'm not sure whether it could be continuing those group activities with consultants teams within those regions to really dive deep into a document and come up with those things and everybody just compile it, because they are conversations that are naturally happening already. And I know that there are a lot of consultants that don't feel comfortable. I don't want to say don't like, it's not a won't. Sometimes they just don't feel confident enough to start having those conversations about family engagement, because those are hard conversations. So yeah, that's kind of where my mind has been going. And I just feel extremely excited that Kim and I were really on the same page with that. And as far as the track entries, I've already done some of that. And what I have been doing as of right now is working within those grant activities and putting a comments within our notes section. I wish they had a secondary grant activity button, which I can totally lobby for if that's something that we think is beneficial. But I think to show that it's completely captured and the work is not siloed to only the one family engagement strategy that's listed in the grant, I've been kind of embedding it into the other areas and then writing notes about how family engagement has integrated into that piece.
Right. I agree, Missy, that I'm showing, can you guys see my screen? It's the track.
Yep.
Okay. So when we're entering our data, the red stars, of course, mean required areas. But when you get down to, we have to link all of our activities, anything that we're doing with the district, we need to enter it into track. So we have to link it to the primary grant activity. So, and then we have drop down menus. I'm just afraid that grant activity 17, family engagement, is not going to be a primary activity, a primary grant activity, because we really want it to be embedded in all of this work. And so maybe I'm just stressing Missy that I just want to make sure that it's represented in there. So if you're saying that in what you do then is down in the description of services is where you add family, just even if you tag it family, you're putting that word in there.
Yeah, the only time that I've been putting it as a standalone is when I've been working with on special projects. So the NNPS or ONPS, all of that kind of stuff. I do kind of put it as its own entity, but everything else has been more of a, how does it embed into that conversation? Because I didn't go there to have a conversation about family engagement. I went there to have a conversation about analyzing their report card and really drilling down to some potential strengths and growth areas that we can address as a team within gap closing. And that led to the conversation about chronic absenteeism, which led to the conversation about family engagement. So,
Missy,
yeah.
did you see Jessica's comment? And maybe this is not feasible because I'm not super familiar with the form, but is it possible to just submit two completely separate entries or three and choose a different grant agreement for each one and then kind of say like, I met with them about this and basically treat it like its own meeting?
It is possible. The thing is that it gets a little sticky because you're allocating time for each activity. So you have, it's definitely possible. I don't know if anybody else is in multiple places, and track is really the bane of my existence.
I'm sure.
It's just one of those tedious tasks that's not that difficult, but you just don't want to do. It's one, yeah. So I try to make it as simple as possible. And I kind of figured ODE can sort through that data.
Oh, Jessica says you can copy a track entry. So then you wouldn't have to re-enter all of the information, maybe just edit some of it for.
Yeah, it's completely possible. I guess that would be how you allocate the time spent. You just have to probably be a little bit more thoughtful on that, because obviously you're not going to put that I spend an hour analyzing report card data and then I also spend an hour talking about family engagement. But
is there,
yeah, that's completely,
can you do smaller segments of time, like 15 minutes or a half hour?
I'm thinking they're wanting us to keep it. Is it already pre-populated, Kim, on the time?
No, you can choose the time. I think it's,
well, can I join?
0.25.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, they wanna keep it to
pre-populated.
every
It's only
15.
per half hour. It's pre-populated. You can't.
Oh, who did?
Yeah.
SST6 is, okay, so this is Patty and I'm one of the QuickBase quad leads. So, I live QuickBase. I like, anyway, I don't know how Region 6 has 0.25 hours because we said everybody was supposed to have 0.5 and nothing less than that. So I don't know why your guys is different. But the thing with track is it's not meant to document our time like Medicare billing. It's meant to document district support. And when you look at the grant agreement, like half the things in there are things that don't go in track. It's our work and it's stuff that we have to do, but it's stuff that's not going to show up in track. So, you have to attend the PBIS state network meeting if you're a PBIS lead, and that's something that you have to do, but it's not going to go in there. So that's always a struggle with people, is feeling like I'm not showing up in track. but it really is to show our district support. And I agree. I mean, I put in the comment, our team talked a lot about family and community engagement. There's 4 of us that are on that team, but doing grant activity 17 isn't the responsibility of the 4 of us. It's like some of you guys had said, how do we support our colleagues to embed the work into what they're doing? So we're trying to figure out how best, and I love your guys' resources and links and sharing, and I think that's fantastic, but how can we support the rest of our team members to do that, which is work that isn't going to go into track?
Yeah, I totally get that. And I agree that, you know, the track is not it kind of used to be one of those, like, we feel like we need to document every single time, everything that we do to kind of, you know, make sure that that's covered. But I also do feel that, you know, I guess, I mean, I know ODE, I obviously I'm not part of that conversation, but part of it is a little bit concerning because it is something that is within the grant agreement and it does need to be represented because that is, you know, work, but it also does need to be integrated into all those other areas because that's what we want districts to do. So we have to practice that as role models that we can do that as well. So it's kind of like, you know, thinking of all those things at once, and trying to figure that out. I think my focus mainly is on building the capacity of other consultants. And I think through being able to connect it within those grant activities, because that's where they live. And I live in some of them too, but some of them live in ones that I don't even reach. So how are they going to embed some of those family engagement, support documents, coaching questions to be able to empower that work when they're meeting with teams? Because I feel like during COVID, family engagement became like the forefront and it was like so important, right? And then now that we are outside of that time, it's kind of started taking that back burner again. And so how do we like keep it alive in the conversation and those teaming structures and practices that districts are doing?
Thank you, Missy. One other area I was thinking of too in our work group last year, maybe it was because I was working with 3 different districts on their one needs assessment. But if you're in Ed Steps and you're looking at all the places that stakeholders are mentioned in your one needs assessment and even the section, and a lot of times when you're talking to districts about it, they're like, yeah, we asked our stakeholders, we had one person look at it, or we sent a survey, but then they didn't take that next step. So we were thinking about ways to continue that support for districts, because all districts have to have that one plan in place too. So that could be another area. And maybe that's within grant activity, is it 1 or 2, 1, 2 or 3, one of those up there. Thinking about how to look at those stakeholder questions that are in the one needs assessment and coaching districts to consider more than just a survey. So just another example I forgot to mention earlier. Tom, anything else you're thinking?
Okay, no, well, yes, all types of things, but pertaining to this particularly, maybe not so much. Anyways, I first of all appreciate you guys for bringing this conversation up, and I also want to highlight this as like we're trying to make these meetings more focused on what the questions you're having about your work and being able to ask and express this in front of other people that have a sense of what you're talking about. And so I appreciate Kim and Missy for being kind of the first people that were willing to jump up here and bring, you know, something that is not, you know, a completed product or not a solution that's going to work for everyone, but kind of this idea of how we're advancing our work and thinking about it and collecting it. So I hope that you are gracious to Kim and Missy as you come into contact with them today for that. But what I'm hearing from everyone here, and we're going to parse this out in kind of 2 parts now as we move forwards, is there's this connected thing going on, but we're having kind of a conversation about doing the work and reporting the work and kind of like how those things line up, how we're going to do both kind of better, or at least in a way that is reflective of what we're doing. So we are going to move forwards into two separate conversations about that, so that we can maybe focus a little bit on one at a time, and maybe that will give us some clarity around things. Another thing I wanted to mention here, especially as I heard the conversation about reporting, is like maybe people are going to have different kind of philosophies in their regions and stuff, and that's okay. What we're doing here is coming together to know what everyone is doing so that we can have the most complete information available as we like move forward and give ideas at our staff meetings and things. So feel no matter what you heard here or what you're doing, when we move into further conversation about this, I hope that people feel encouraged and free to share what their views are, what their organization is doing, so that we can like learn from that, even if it's maybe not totally 100% in step with other things that have been presented here today. So just encouraging you all to hopefully find this a safe space, though I know that's something I can't just tell you.
Thanks, Tom.
I would, so maybe what I would do here before we get into some breakout groups, and while we're doing this, I'm going to open a poll question to kind of see how comfortable you guys are with the breakout groups you're in, or if you want to move on to some fresh faces. I'm wondering, before we get into these breakout groups, if anyone heard something here that in front of the whole group they want to say. I really appreciated Yugochi and Patty for saying, hey, this is how we're thinking about it. I'm hearing you connecting this. I'm wondering if other people are having these big senses that maybe they'd want to get out in front of the whole group before we go to have smaller group conversations. So I'm just going to stop talking for a minute. And if anyone has those types of ideas, go ahead and unmute or use the chat for that.
Kim and Missy, I really appreciate you being willing to get on and share documents. We keep talking in almost every group network that I'm in about not reinventing the wheel 16 different times. And I think the more of this that we can share, and willing to share it across the regions and tweak it to make it work for our specific region, the better it will be, because A, we'll have more consistency across the state of Ohio, and B, we will have more time to actually go into districts rather than having to create everything from scratch. So thank you very much for sharing. I appreciate it.
Okay, so hopefully people weren't shocked by the response I just put in the chat. Hopefully if you said yes, it meant that you were comfortable with the group that you were in. If not, I don't know what to tell you. So here's what I want to think about a little bit. We're going to do this in two stages. We're going to first talk about coaching tools and prompts. And this is something you're all doing all the time, right? This is like one of the big ones. So like any tools you're using, any prompts that you think could be leveraged. Kim shared her document of like potential services and stuff. So like, are there a tool like that that could be used or administered? We don't necessarily have anything directly to respond to other than kind of a couple ideas around how we're organizing things, sharing potential services and practices with other colleagues who might not be most family engagement minded. So we're going to break out into those rooms for about 12 minutes. And what I'd love for you all to do is consider just that question, the tools and coaching prompts you've been using to get people moving and grooving, to get people inspired as you're having these conversations. I will say, I think coaching prompts like seem silly until you need one, and then they're like super helpful. So I know that as professionals, it can seem kind of like very basic to be working through, some of these things. But I think being able to redirect conversations really gracefully and efficiently is like a skill of a coach. So hopefully, some of these can help us in that practice. Um, I'm leaving this a little open-ended, which is dangerous, but I believe that you all will have great conversations and be able to contribute to this. How we're going to capture these ideas is on a Jamboard, which I know people kind of have love-hate relationships with. But you know what? They're basically shutting down Jamboard, and we only got a couple more hurrahs left, so I'm going to stick with it. Before I figure out my next virtual board. So everyone, click on that, have that open, so you can contribute using the post-it notes feature. But let's go ahead and just take a step back. Say, hey, here's what I heard people talking about. Here's the tools I've been using. Maybe we could use a prompt for this. I've got a prompt for that. Yeah. So pause just for a second to see if people have questions. But other than that, I'm going to open the room for about 12 minutes.
Tom, should they put on their little sticky, like the topic that the prompt goes with, like mental health or PBIS or OIP family? Like, I think all of them should be about family engagement, but should they be tagged at the top of it with like a topic? That way we can more easily kind of see the breadth of what people are creating prompts about.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Meredith. We're not like Track. You're allowed to put two activities on the same post-it. So if something comes up and you want to say, hey, I think this works really good for a PBIS conversation, or to pivot around how we're talking about families when it comes to chronic absenteeism, that is absolutely super healthy or helpful and healthy, I suppose. I'm not a doctor, so that's not medical advice, but
And
anyway.
then should they be looking at something that Kim shared in terms of interest areas or grant agreement focus areas when they're
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. We did drop the grant agreement in there, as well as Kim's document for suggested services for people. So feel free to draw from that.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I did like this whole poll and everything, and I think I'm about to just remake the rooms. So I apologize if you don't. Okay, we're all back here. I'm sorry that people's conversations got cut short. I guess. I don't want to. Hang on one second. Oh no. Okay. Sorry. I got lost in my Zoom here. Okay. Um, we got all this stuff here, and it's really great. A lot of different things people are using. I popped around some different rooms, and also followed along as y'all added these post-it notes. And here's a couple things that are coming up for me that maybe we want to add into here, or that are coming through in different ways. Like number one, prevention, intervention conversations, like the timing of intervention, considering prevention is really important. And it is also something that maybe like some schools, or like most organizations at all, are good at kind of delineating between. and strategizing. And I think that comes down to things like having a really strong MTSS approach, making sure that staff's all on board with things like that, understanding leading indicators, early warning systems, using that data. So I think that thing is really important. Another thing in here is trust. So a lot of people trust, very cool, very like feels kind of like more emotive, but trust is actually a thing that you can build. Practices that build trust and practices that diminish trust. So making sure that schools and districts are really clear that like trust is not something like nice, it is something that is foundational to human relationships and that can be nurtured through practice. I also saw something in here I liked that said like, where is this written down? So if you're having conversations with people, supporting them in their practices, hey, they have this really great idea or really good approach that's going to solve a problem that's come up in this first 9 weeks. Have they written it down and have they told anyone about it? That seems silly, but kind of important. And it might be surprising how many times we have great ideas and don't really kind of tell people about them all at the same time, at least, things like that. So, and one last thing I wanted to point out before we pivot this conversation or open this conversation up is Missy mentioned, going to the report card. Something that is still vitally important is looking at disproportionality data, obviously looking at all the data, but understanding disproportionality, helping districts to understand disproportionality, helping districts to understand who their underserved populations are, where resources should be kind of being focused between kind of or like during cycles of improvement. So that's something I wanted to just point out as well. I know that that's on your minds all of the time, but yes. So I'm wondering if other important things came up. We were having a riveting discussion around chronic absenteeism. Again, shocking. So, I might invite people from my group if they wanted to share anything about chronic absenteeism, but also just opening up to any group to share if, anything stuck out to them or things they just want to make sure we hear.
This is Kim. Hey, I'm on a couple of Facebook groups for families of students with disabilities. And there are many times that families will post, I got this nasty letter from the school district telling me that my child is chronically absent and they've missed this many days and all this. And they're like, don't they even understand that my child has been sick, they've been in the hospital, they've had this, all these different things. So the families are not getting the message. So anytime the districts aren't getting the message either. So anytime that we can help to support a district when we're talking about chronic absenteeism, to look at that letter that they're required by law to send, but to consider and maybe send or call the family ahead of time, or have a conversation with the family like, this is a requirement, we understand your family situation, we understand what's going on with your child. But that would so much help that relationship, and then they wouldn't be blasting it on social media that it's the district is the worst district ever because they don't understand them and their families. So just if we could just think about that, like my child missed a lot of school and he did because of his disability, and that's going to happen. And the school district knows that, but we need to make sure that we're more clear in that communication.
Thanks for reminding us about that, Kim. And we have some resources here at the center to help districts think through what a family-friendly communication for such a letter might look like. Something very specific to what you're speaking about. We know that the letters are required. What goes into the letter is not required or really spoken about. So you really actually do have an opportunity to build trust, make a connection with the family, and to your point, there are all different types of situations where chronic absenteeism is great because it's this leading indicator that tells us what could happen on average if this continues. That doesn't mean that there aren't all types of different arrangements for kids coming to school, going to school, and that we should kind of like acknowledge that. And like you said, how far could a phone call go? Just saying, hey, everyone's got to get this. We just want to make sure you know you're not in trouble. We still want to support you. Stuff like that goes a really long way to build.
Tom, did you say we have a resource on our website related to that?
Mm-hmm. A letter template for attendance letters. I contributed to it. Pretty cool. So
Is it the building trust with families through attendance letters?
That is. And
Okay.
something you might see in this is, so this was based on, there are some adjustments to like, oh, actually, no, the attendance ones are still fine. The RIMP ones. But anyways, something I want to mention about this tool that Meredith just dropped is I give the second page to people all of the time, whether it's about absenteeism or not, because it's simply kind of a couple questions that says, hey, is the family going to understand this? Does this build trust? Is there just like another way of framing this? So really, you could use it with almost any communication from school to home. Okay, before bouncing to our next conversation, I'm wondering if we one more share out. That's totally cool because we got a lot of stuff keeping us moving. So you're actually going to stay in that Jamboard document. We're just going to slide over to this guy. And we're going to go to that second part of that conversation now. And maybe we'll have a slightly shorter time, maybe around 10 minutes to talk with each other. And this is really continuing that conversation around oh yeah, reporting. And so we heard like I was saying, wow, there's like perspectives and philosophy, like what this is and what it means to our team and like how we use it, how we perceive other people might be reading it, things like that nature. So this conversation is like I said, just to get ideas about what other organizations are doing while we all get in the room sometimes together. You know, there's 16 these organizations on the day-to-day kind of doing their business. So sometimes it's good to just touch base around kind of how these things are coming together for all of us. Use that Jamboard, and I just want you guys to be able to have a chance to synthesize the discussion that you heard. Add any comments about what you or your organization view as like how you're approaching this, or if you have any tips on, you know, common things that came up. Remember that kind of what we're worried about here is just, you know, making sure that the work being done is represented and captured, so that people continue to think family engagement matters in some ways. But we're gonna get together here for maybe 8 to 10 minutes, and just I want you all to have time to synthesize that conversation. It was a very technical conversation for our SST consultants, kind of. So get together, wrap that up, share your feelings on it. Hopefully, in smaller groups, you might be able to vent if you need to, or share kind of what your process is. So I'll pause just for about seconds, see if anyone's got any questions or anything, and then I'll reopen those same groups. Hey, welcome back, everybody. So grateful for you all to have jumped into these conversations and contributed to a sense that some of our members have been having about certain topics. I want to remind you all that this will be kind of generally a type of format we might be applying moving forwards, people kind of bringing up common concerns, things we're hearing. So what I'd encourage you all to do is if there's something either you're working on specifically that you'd like feedback on, whether it's a tool or research. Oh no, 1 second. My headphone fell out. Sorry about that. If there's a tool or resource or something that you're working on and need feedback, feel free to reach out. We can set up a space in this meeting for you to get direct feedback. If there's something you've just been thinking about in your work that you'd like some like-minded people, some similarly situated people to be thinking about, bring that too. So please feel free to make a meeting with me, reach out to me via email or phone, or even at the end of today in kind of our reflection or survey, please share if you've got something you'd like to talk about. Got a great group of people here to help think through things and continue to build on things. I showed you the website earlier. All of the stuff Kim shared with me, I'll make sure to get on the website so that you can click back on it and remember where it is in one place. If you'd like to review and check it out, make a copy and use it for your purposes and things. Won't spend too much time reporting out on these Post-its. I think a lot of people had a lot of good ideas, and some of those are going to work for some people. And so I hope that you've learned something from your colleagues today. But I will stop for a second to just let people share out. You know, we're just wrapping up about 60 straight minutes of consultant-led kind of a topical discourse here. So I'd love to hear if anyone had any closing thoughts around this specifically, or if you just wanted to, you know, say, hey, this worked well, this didn't work well, that'd be cool here too. So I'll just pause for a moment here and invite any closing thoughts from colleagues. Get a smiley face as our closing thought on the Jamboard here. I do really just want to appreciate everyone for jumping in and giving their perspective on these issues. Thanks for everything that you're doing and sharing with us. Now jumping back over to our meeting, we do have time here for some of our network partners to give some updates. So we'll take a couple-minute break from collaborating with smaller groups here and look at hearing from some of our network partners. So sorry to you all if you feel like I'm putting you on the spot, but this is the time of the meeting. So I'm wondering if Dr. Hickman from the coalition is here today. I saw you. Hi, Dr. Hickman. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for stopping by. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I feel bad. I've been in the small groups and I'm no help whatsoever, but I do enjoy listening to the conversations. It's a pleasure to be there, sort of a I don't know, a fly on the wall maybe. And I'm going to be a little off track from the conversation that's been going on today. Because Tom said that we could share out and talk about anything we're doing. And so there are some things I wanted to talk about that are a little completely off track from absenteeism. But I just thought I'd go ahead and take some time and just do a shameless plug. Whoa, I'm really big there. Okay. A shameless plug for some of the things that we're doing at the coalition. So Tom said I can share my screen. So I'm going to do that. Nope, it says I can't, Tom. Did it work? Aha. Nope, it doesn't like me. While he's doing that, what I was hoping to do, nope, you don't want to see my web. Okay, or my or our training data, or a little bit of everything there. Okay, so most folks have seen our website before. If you haven't, oh nope, let's try not our staff backdoor page. Let's try the main page that everybody sees. Here you go. Most folks have seen this. If you haven't, I'll pop it in the chat. It's just our main website. But I wanted to take a second to also, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, you certainly can. In the bottom right corner, you'll see the join our mailing list. You can get information from our organization. We post other folks, things that are going on in their area as well. So please consider that, because it's another resource to grab materials and share out with your families. But what I wanted to point out was up here on the right, we have a youth tab for transition age youth. And so if you click on it, there's a couple of resources I just wanted to take a few seconds to point out. If you're working with families that have a transition age youth, they're thinking about transition or they're working through transition, we have a couple of resources on here if you haven't seen before, are really just kind of helpful for families and for students thinking through this. So I thought I'd take a second and just, like I said, do a shameless plug about these particular materials. So if you scroll down, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff, including some awesome videos. Make sure you watch them. Michael was featured. He did a session at the OSU Family Engagement Summit. So these are all the videos of interviews he did with other youth. But if you go way down, there's a couple of things I wanted to point out. So the first is what you see here. Is it looks like a cartoon. This is actually our youth infographic. So here you'll see the 3 issues you can link to on the right. They're sort of comic book format, talking to youth about self-empowerment, youth engagement, why it's important to be involved, why it's important to be engaged. We include these in all of our It's My Turn transition trainings and our GPS transition trainings, but you can print these and share them with youth. They're really just nice tools to start conversations. We have one of them in an animated version. So that way, if people learn differently or like sort of cartoon format, they can learn that way as well. But these are the 2 that I wanted to point out here. I'll start with the one below, the Transition IEP Checklist. This was actually a collaboration with our TA, our Technical Assistance Center. So you can see the transition age when you pop it open. The age 14, it looks like it's typed in. That's because it's a document that's useful for multiple states. But why this is such a great tool is because it switches between talking to parents and talking to the student themselves. So you'll see if you go between the pages, it'll have pages that are specifically so you see here during the transition IEP meeting, tips for parents. So there are pages, it goes like every other page. Things that students need to know, things that parents need to know. So it's a really useful document of education for families, but also conversation starters. So I wanted to make sure folks saw that. And then here's one that is specifically targeted for youth themselves. That's kind of answer some questions, helps students think about why it's important to be involved, helps them prepare. So what kinds of things could I ask during my meeting, or what, if I can't even participate, if I don't feel like I can go, what kinds of things can I do to show my presence? So what can I share with folks to bring in there? What do I want them to talk about? Those kinds of things. So this one is also there as well. If you're working with youth, this is a really great tool as well. And so that is sort of just the quick thing I wanted to mention to folks, those transition-based things for families and importantly for students. And that's it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that and those. And I think it's one thing to go on the website and kind of click around and see some really cool stuff, but to have you kind of give us a perspective on what these things are, how to use them, how they were developed, I think brings them even more to life. And really excited about some of the youth engagement work that's being done. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Okay, so next up, I think I saw Gwen. There you are. How are you today? Do you bring us any cool updates from O'Kelly? Ooh, Miss Gwen, you are on mute, unfortunately, right now.
Thank you. As you can tell, I'm still a little discombobulated. If I look like I'm mean mugging anyone, it's because I absentmindedly placed my work glasses somewhere and I can't find them. So I don't see that well. So if I'm doing like this, it's not personal, it's just me. But got a lot going on with Ocali. As you know, very personally, Thomas, we had a summit last week, which we had a gathering of different professionals talking about A plus B equals C. What is A plus B equals C, you wonder? It's basically our community outreach. It stands for accessibility plus belonging equals community. And we are partnering with lots of different organizations, just trying to create accessible spaces for individuals with disabilities. We already have different initiatives. We have programs with the Ohio State Fair, the Franklin County Fair. We actually have a program with the airport, the John Glenn International Airport, just to help with the accessibility. But I do want to point out our focus, and particularly my focus, is the second letter, the B, the belonging. I mean, there's always physical accessibility issues, but we're really trying to tackle that way to make people feel like they belong, that we want their input, we want their presence. And it's a fascinating program, and I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. If any of you have any ideas or programs that you're involved with that relate to that, please reach out to me. Something I wanted to point out, I'm not a teacher, I'm not directly in the school district, but I am with Ocali, and we want to be a support to all of you, the SSTs. So if there's anything, please reach out. But that's really one of the big things. The other thing, of course, is OcaliCon coming up next month. I'm sure a lot of you will be in attendance, and really looking forward to that. So thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to take a moment to just say I did go to the community conversation around access plus belonging equals community last week. And I mean, if you ever want to bring a mission or initiative to life, that is definitely a way to do that. Being able to have conversations with professionals, that are a little bit outside of my circle, and bringing their own worldviews of the conversation about what access and belonging means, and what we might know, how we might know we've reached community, was really impactful to my own thinking. So thank you and Ocali for that event, and I encourage you to check out. I know they told us, and I wrote it down, that there is a website or web space in the Ocali website for A plus B equals C, and I would encourage you to check it out. Yeah, I don't know, just spoke to me, so I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. As we get towards the home stretch here, there's about an hour left together today. What we're going to do is take a pause. We get a little break. We deserve it here. We've been working hard today, collaborating with each other, enjoying each other's company. So I'm going to go ahead and say let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back here around 11:02, 11:03. Thank you, and we'll see you in a second. Okie dokie, everybody. Give people just about 60 more seconds to get back in our seats. Hopefully you're able to top off your coffee, water, maybe a Diet Pepsi, whatever you're into, to get you through the next hour of your day. But we'll be getting started here in just 30 seconds, and we will be collaborating again. Hopefully we're ready to rock. Okay, well, the time has come. It is 11:03 a.m. So we got one more hour, just under an hour left together. Want to make it a good one here. So hopefully you are seeing Yep, my PowerPoint right now. So that's pretty cool. We're going to get into some work groups. And as we talked about last time, as we kicked off the network for this year, we said we're going to reimagine our work groups. We want these to be things that are, don't feel like a chore to continue. They're not, drawing too much time, energy, effort away from your primary tasks as consultants, as most of you are SSP consultants. So what we're doing is kind of keeping a little more of a topical approach and things that are coming up so that we can work on those together. So today, as I mentioned about 2 hours ago almost, that's crazy, time flies when you're having fun, is that we're going to have 3 different work groups. You'll self-select into one that sounds the most interesting to you. Okay, this will be tough because I'm sure all of you are interested, or many of you are interested in multiple of these, or at least are working in spaces where you kind of touch these different areas. But I want to give you a overview so you know what you're getting into. So again, 3 work groups: model schools for family engagement program, and you might be thinking about this as some type of recognition system for schools doing really great family engagement work. Community schools and dropout recovery prevention center, schools. How are we best supporting those organizations to serve families, specifically families of students with disabilities? We know that can be a challenge. And then that statewide district survey that we talked about, informing the prompts for that survey that we'll be sending out early in 2024 for I think data that we all can learn from and use there. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is access this work group note catcher. The note catcher was on the website. It is in the PowerPoint, and I will drop this link right now. Everyone should have editing rights, and let me just take a second to walk you through this. There's one document for all 3 of the work groups, just so we keep everything in kind of one place there. These big headings are the work.
Tom, we're still looking at your slides.
Ah,
Gotta keep you on the right page.
you do. Okay, as Meredith just pointed out, like a lot of effort is put into keeping me on track here at the Family Engagement Center. So appreciate Meredith and all the others. Now, hopefully you see the model schools page. Excuse me, the work group document. So up here, each big red title is a work group, and that's where your work for the day is going to start. We got a couple tips on how you might want to divide up how we're going to keep track of time and keep track of the work we're discussing here. So please take heed to those if you can't divide up the roles and responsibilities on your own. And then we got this what to know page, and I'll show you all these in a second before you self-select. And then what I've done is try to divide the discussion time into maybe chunks about, specific topics. So if you're in the model schools, you might spend 5 minutes talking about systems of recognition that already exist for schools. Maybe we'll spend 20 minutes talking about what we prioritize in these questions, and then another 5, just wrapping up. What might we avoid? Where might we go next? It kind of follows a similar pattern for all of these, of course, with just different questions. Okay, so when you select in there, this is where you're going to be working. Okie dokie. So what I'm going to do is be quiet and let you read over each of these for maybe 2 minutes or so you get a sense of what you might be getting into. Well, after waiting around 80 seconds, I kind of realized this was not the most accessible way to do this. So I will just remind people that three work groups. One is about model schools, a recognition system for family engagement schools, and what that system might look like. Option 2 is going to be around community schools and dropout recovery and prevention schools. And option 3 is going to be around brainstorming prompts for a district survey, looking back what we had, thinking about what we might add. So there's going to be 3 work groups. I'm going to pause here just for a second because I did throw a bunch of stuff at you. I'm wondering if anyone has any questions about where to access things, how they might go about this business or anything. Well, no one's coming off mute or anything. No, again, seeing some thumbs up. So what I'm doing right now is you should see a prompt open for rooms. You can opt into any of those and get going. We'll be coming back in about 30 minutes. Oh no, let me see. So Carolyn, if you tell me which one you want to be in, I can drop you in there.
I thought I'd take a look at the statewide district survey.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be putting you there in just a second.
Thanks. Got it.
Thank you.
Could I go to community schools?
Yes, ma'am. Welcome back. Hope those work groups went well. I know that I popped into one for most of the time and thought the conversation was great and really helpful. So we will report back on kind of how any information gets used. If you are contributing to a group that is maybe doing some thinking around something that will be to come. So look for updates on that. And then I know that I saw in the document that the community schools group found it to be kind of helpful to come together and be able to talk on like terms. So we'll be sure to keep that conversation going as we look to make sure that we're supporting all children and families, students with disabilities, no matter where they kind of land in our public education system, as well as, dropout recovery and prevention programs are really unique settings that are working really hard to serve a certain population of students, and that deserves some attention too, to how we're supporting them, especially as they find themselves in our state's great accountability system moving forwards. So I will pause here. I'm wondering if from each group you could just give me 30 to 60 seconds of what went down. I'll just go in the order. So I'll start with the model schools group, if someone could give just a quick rundown of what happened.
Okay, fine. We like the idea, but don't want it to turn into PBIS recognition. How's that?
That was the synopsis, wasn't it?
Yeah, that there's some, the idea is great, but it needs really clear criteria. You know, there's a few things that are in place already that we've had experience with and really like some things about them and really don't like some things about them, so. Anything
Thank
else?
you
team?
so much. Just thank you for that, Patty, and we're gonna keep working on that. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more, but we'll just keep on moving on to the second group, which was our community school and DORPS group. So how y'all doing?
I feel like our group came up with a ton of really good ideas. I feel like we could work on this for 5 years. But basically attendance, graduation, finding evidence-based strategies to address those issues that are specific to this population of families and students, understanding that a lot of students in community schools and families in community schools and dropout recovery programs have not had a successful school experience, are not feeling a trusting relationship with school in general. And so how do we develop that trusting relationship and then find some strategies to work around through the barriers that this population of kiddos and families have, whether it's children of their own, whether it's transportation to school, whether it's a work schedule, etc. But what can we do so everyone graduates in the best way possible?
Love to hear it. I'm glad that you guys were able to start a conversation. I see set a little agenda. Maybe you'll meet again. So make sure to keep that conversation moving. And last, but certainly not least, we had a little conversation about a district survey. Would someone mind giving me a quick recap of that for the group?
So we took this time to review the current survey and kind of discuss what the interpretation is on some of those questions and found some opportunities for maybe qualifying some of that data so that we have that, you know, quantifiable data of, you know, yes and no, but also yes, okay, how, where, at what level is, you know, some of the questions are very broad because it's necessary, but really getting maybe a little bit more possibly optional feedback as well so that we can really pinpoint, you know, maybe where are those open doors for us to get into those conversations about families and then bringing them over to other areas of work so that it's a little more braided, as somebody said, braided throughout all of the district and the building work.
Very cool. I appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing where that will go. And we'll report back with some of that as well once Meredith and co keeps developing that wonderful survey. So I'm going to keep on plugging along because we are almost done, and I'm sure you have very important and cool things to be doing other than talking to me. So we're going to keep on moving. We're going to do the next couple things in Mentimeter here. So we're going to have some time for consultant announcements and celebrations. You had to hear updates from the center, updates from partners. Well, now it's your turn. So we'll be sharing out some of those. And we'll also be wrapping up with just kind of a little survey activity. It's all going to be, though, on Mentimeter. So I'm going to give you a second to either use your phone over there. You can scan the QR code, or what you do is head to menti.com on your browser and type in that code right there, and you should see a little slide come up about announcements and celebration. So as you're getting over there, I'm going to leave this up just for a second so people can access that. I am also going to prime our colleague Kim, who wanted to give an announcement about something that has been shaping her work recently. So whenever you're ready, Kim, why don't you jump on here and chat us through that.
Thanks, Tom, for letting me share. I love technology and education, and I found something that I wanted to share with you guys because it's really helped change how I've shared information with other consultants in our office and with districts. So I may be a groupie of Eric Kurtz. I don't know if you guys know who Eric Kurtz is. I just put his link to his newsletter in chat. So I am officially a groupie, but I wanted to share with you guys something real quick. I want to share my screen. And it is how you can share a Google Doc. And I apologize if you guys are not Google users, but it's a Google Doc, Google Sheet, any Google slide, any presentation. Do you guys know how you go up in the toolbar up here and you see the edit? I don't want everybody to edit my document. So pause off. I'm going to have you just look at it. So one thing you can do is you can just do copy. But when you do copy, then that's when your visitors, your participants get this. And then they make a copy and it goes into their drive. Well, my drive is out of control right now. So I need to refer back to Eric and find out what I can do to organize my drive. But something you can do so you're not adding is you type in template /preview. This is my tip. And when you do that, then it brings up that same document and you can preview it without putting it into your drive. And then the upper right-hand corner is that use template, and then it downloads it into your drive. That is super cool. So you're not just blowing up your drive. You're not blowing up whatever shared drives you have. You can take a look at it first. Not everything that people share with me is something that I'm going to need to use. But this gives me an option to take a look at it. And then if I click on use template, then I can add it and then I could use it as a tool. It's in my drive and I can do whatever I want to with it. So if you knew that, why didn't you share that with me already? I think it's a cool tool. So thanks for letting me share, Tom. And it's really helped me in my work.
All right, Kim, can you do that one more time? What did you put at the end? /
sure.
template / preview?
Yes. / just delete the edit, delete the copy, or delete view, and you put template / preview.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks,
That's what
Tom,
we're
for
here
letting me
for.
share.
Tech tips, coaching prompts, the whole thing. You're getting it today. This is going great. So appreciate you for sharing that, Kim. Also jumping back over to here, we did have one update come in. So we've heard that due to attendance concerns, a lot of people are focused on MTSS. Well, it's about time. So that is really good to hear. And that will be a delivery model that I think will probably be in favor for some time moving forward. So continue to promote that. I'll just pause here just really briefly to see if someone there wanted to share more about that. Well, that's cool too, but go ahead and let us know what you're thinking.
Well, this is not a celebration from my SST because I'm not an SST, but I just want to give some kudos to Patty Porto for just helping the districts up in her region stick with NNPS, expand to new schools. I know it's always sort of a one step forward, two steps back feeling, but you're persisting and advocating for them to keep going, and I appreciate that.
That's great. Love all the support. Love the shout outs. I didn't prep y'all for that, but next time make sure you bring a celebration or announcement so we can all learn about what's going on here. The last thing we got to do together today is get a little bit of feedback about your experience. So jump back on the Mentimeter if you can. Hopefully you're still on there. If not, I can re-enter that information. But we're going to go ahead and do this. Is for everyone. This is kind of our little satisfaction survey situation. All of it is still anonymized, but if you all could jump in here and do some type of voting about this, that'd be fantastic. We really do take very seriously feedback. If you notice over time, our meeting topics are basically whatever you tell us them to be. And so we really appreciate your feedback and helps us meet your needs, or at least interests, I suppose. We'll just give a couple more seconds on this one. I see 11 people on the Mentimeter and 19 people on my Zoom. That's just not adding up. Thank you. So I appreciate y'all. Stick with me there. Stick with me here. We're gonna do one or two more slides here really quick. So the next one over here onto your phones or browsers. There's 4 different prompts here. Today I was able to, and let me know if you felt like that happened for you or not today. Wow, we got 14 on this one. Thank you for continuing to join the Mentimeter. We had 15 on this one and 13 on the last one. I'm gonna say that the 2 of you that voted on this one that didn't vote on the last one just did that to save my feelings because you're gonna put very disappointed. 16 now. Keep it on, keep it on. Okay, so we'll work on making sure everyone feels like they're contributing to something relevant. So one way that you could do that is by reaching out to us and telling us what's relevant. What'd you like to talk about? So consider doing that to help us out here. And the last thing is just, if there are things that you're hoping to learn more about, spend more time on, or practice, please share here. And we'll take this with us. I'm going to leave this Mentimeter part open. Oh my gosh, headphones. For a couple minutes, and we might not look at all of them, but please contribute to this. This is probably the most important part, what we did wrong or what we didn't get to. So please spend some time doing sharing about this one. We'll take this very seriously.
The good news is the survey that we're working on won't go out until probably February. So if needed, we could talk about it again for a bit of time in our December meeting, right, Tom? There's a December meeting.
Yes, which is
Okay.
like, I'll tell you the exact date in 2 slides. But mid-December meeting. Indicator 8's coming. We got you. Okay. So I hope that people continue to contribute to this, and I will now take it off the screen unless you want, in case you want to share something just between me and you. But everything that came up, great feedback so far. So please keep putting that in there. Like I said, it's still open, even though you don't see it. So please add your comments. You can ask me any questions at the end. Remember, if you go to the website for the network, my calendar is up there. You can set a meeting with me that way. Some people have done that so far. You can also just email me. A lot of people think that this is maybe not super useful. That's fine. Email me. I'll respond to that too. Our next meeting is on December 12th at the same time in the same place. And at that time, I mean, is 9 a.m. And at that place, I mean, is Zoom. So we'll be there. Remember, the March meeting will be in Columbus. Y'all voted on that last time. So just keep that in your mind as we move forwards. And we are planning that. I've even booked a room in planned everything for it. So like it's starting to become a real physical place. But with that, it is 11:58 on October 17th, 2023. And I wish you to have the best October 17th of 2023 that you have ever had. I'll stay here for any questions, concerns, anything else coming up. But with that, thank you for all of your time, attention, and efforts today. You have important jobs to do, and we're so grateful to be in discussion with you about those important roles you have to play. So thank you and have a great day.